Dear brothers and sisters on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, a very happy, holy, and joyful Easter. We have come to the second Sunday of Easter, and normally in the church's liturgical calendar, this Sunday is dedicated by Saint Pope John Paul II as Mercy Sunday, Divine Mercy Sunday. But we will look at the gospel today because the gospel is talking all about faith. And when we look about ourselves in this secular world, faith is taking a terrible beating. To have faith now, and especially to have faith in God, is something that people don't like. We are living in a very highly secularized culture that discourages us to have anything with God, and least of all, faith. And when we say we are a people of faith, they just look at us and wonder whether we are from Mars or Venus or from some other outer space planet, you know. So we need to have faith. And this second Sunday of Easter is all about faith and doubt. Because the story goes that Jesus came and visited the apostles. And when he came there, all the apostles were filled with fright. They were frightened. But Jesus said, "Peace be with you." And he showed them his hands and his feet, and they believed. But there was one person missing in them. And when Jesus went away, Thomas had come in. And when Thomas came in, they were so excited to tell him all about Jesus, that we have seen the Lord. But Thomas said, "Aha, just hold it, hold it." And he said, "Unless I put my finger in the marks that the nails have made in his hands and his side, I will not believe." 8 days later, they were still in the upper room, full of fear. Jesus comes again. And when Jesus comes and meets them, he says, "Peace be with you." And what does he do? He comes up to Thomas and says, "Thomas, put your finger here in the marks that the nails have made." And immediately, Thomas's heart relented, and he knelt down and said, "My Lord and my God." What a fantastic confession of faith. Then Jesus says, "Blessed are you, Thomas, who see and believe, but more blessed are those who do not see and yet believe." Faith. Do you and I have faith? What is the quality of our faith? What is the depth of our faith? In our faith, do we encounter Jesus? So my topic today and my meditation today is all about faith. So let's see some quotes on faith. What does faith really mean? Faith is the opportunity of being in God's place at God's time, following God's instruction to obtain God's results. Fantastic. Again, faith sees the invisible, believes the unbelievable, and receives the impossible. Great. And see what St. Augustine says. St. Augustine says, "Faith is to believe what we do not see, and the reward of this faith is to see what we believe." St. Augustine had it right. He had it right always. So our very first point is that faith needs understanding. It needs understanding. As a Christian, perhaps you were born into a Catholic family and you were baptized by your parents, and all along you were, as we call them here today, cradle Catholic, and we believe instantaneously, implicitly, and innocently. We believe. But then our faith needs understanding. Understanding reason. Faith and reason go hand in hand. They are not at war with each other. In fact, they go hand in hand like the two wings of a bird. And if one wing of a bird is harmed or broken or not working, whatever, the bird cannot fly. So also, we need faith and reason. faith to enlighten reason, and reason to enlighten faith, so that we know what we believe and we believe what we know. And this is where faith and reason are not at war with each other. They are two helps, like my two hands, my right hand and my left hand, and together I can make a noise. Faith and reason. So let your faith understand. Give your faith a chance to understand. And let understanding support your faith. That is why Thomas is known for and being a doubting Thomas. Doubt. We all have doubt. Doubts are legitimate. Doubts are stepping stones to greater faith. When we have a doubt, then we know our faith is alive. As we move over to our second point of faith and reflecting on the meaning of faith and what impact it has in each one of us, I have a quote that says, "I do not want merely to possess a faith. I want a faith that possesses me." Second point in my meditation is, faith needs nourishment. Just like every child, and including myself, when I was a little child, my mother took great pains to feed me, nourish me, to give me the right vitamins, food on time, the good food and the best of food they provided to the best of their ability. Today, I can boast of good health. My physical life was nourished. So also, our faith life must be nourished. How do I nourish my faith life? There are many ways to nourish my faith life. First and foremost, inserting ourselves in a community of faith. We can insert ourselves into a community of faith, edified by one another's examples. We are encouraged by each other's example. And that person's example of faith becomes an inspiration to me. And I can walk the path of my sufferings, my pain, my difficulty, knowing that others also are doing it. And they are right before me there in my faith community. That's why it's so important to go for Mass on Sundays, every Sunday. Not only when the weather is good like this lovely sunshine, but every Sunday, to make it a priority in my life to be nourished in my faith community by going for Mass together. I can nourish my faith through the Word of God. I need to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And this relationship overrides every other relationship, so that this relationship becomes the priority in my life. Jesus becomes the priority in my life. And Jesus becomes the center point in my life, so that from the center point, I relate to every other thing in my life. And I nourish my faith on His Word. I need to know Jesus' Word. If I have to build a personal relationship with Jesus, then I have to have His Word always by my side to give me deeper understanding, to show me what is right and wrong, to give me inspiration, to give me guidance. As we continue asking ourselves, what is faith? How does faith impact me? How can I nourish my faith? How can understanding support my faith? Then our third reflection today is, faith needs examples. And we are surrounded by a whole cloud of witnesses that can provide us any amount of examples and the depth of various examples of our faith. For example, recently ISIS had beheaded about 21 Coptic Christians. Here were these Christian men who were just grabbed from their place and taken into a public place and executed, beheaded. Here is an example of people who stood for their faith. People who gave their life for their faith. They were asked whether they would like to convert or not. They said, "No, I'm a Christian and I'll remain a Christian." Here's a beautiful example, modern day example, right here in front of us. Sometimes we have the example of the saints. Whichever church you belong to, and in the Catholic Church we have this beautiful tradition of dedicating a church to a saint. This church is dedicated to Saint Michael the Archangel. Now, he's not much of an example to all of us, except that he fights against the dragon in the book of Revelation. And we have a lot of dragons here. What are those dragons? All our demons that we have to face every day as we live our Christian life. As we face Christ, we also have to face our dragons, our demons. And we need the example of Saint Michael to fight against these demons. So, for example, Saint Anthony. Saint Anthony was a humble man, but he had a lot of temptations. What did he do? He chose Christ. He prayed. And there's a beautiful example of him in his life where you have the baby Jesus standing on his Bible. You see how much he took the Word of God into his life, so much so the Word of God became present to him in Jesus Christ. You and I have so many examples around us. We need to search for those examples. We don't have to go very far. We have to look at people, how they are facing their lives every day. People who are facing a divorce, how do they face it? People who are facing their illness, cancer, or their disease that they are suffering with. See how they face it. Look at their example. This becomes a living example of faith and how they dedicated themselves to their faith, live their faith, and take their faith seriously. Our faith needs examples in order to live and unfold the life of Christ in each one of us. For example, also, Jesus had his mother, Mary, a woman of faith, who said in the Annunciation, "Be it done to me according to your word, for I am the servant of the Lord." And all along his life, Jesus saw Mary, his mother, as the servant of the gospel, the servant of his mission, the servant of his redemption that he brought for all of us. Jesus was surrounded by beautiful examples, even by his father, Joseph. His dedication, his giving up of himself so that he could take care of Jesus and become his foster father. Jesus was surrounded by these beautiful examples. Mother Teresa was a beautiful example for all of us who lived this earth and walked this earth, because we know her. I met Mother Teresa so many times and I saw her beautiful example. What was her example? She left the Loreto sisters with absolutely no money, no companions, no security. And she walked out into the streets of Calcutta. No place to stay, just like Jesus. And yet, today, she becomes a world figure, a world famous person who is now a saint. There's a nice quote that I found which says, "When I cannot enjoy the faith of assurance, I live by the faith of adherence." How fantastic. And what is that faith of adherence? Our fourth reflection is faith needs good works. Good works are a sign of adherence. To adhere, to stick to the path. That is what adherence means, to stick to the path. Our faith needs to give us the grace to do good works. What are the good works? To reach out to others. What did Jesus say in Matthew chapter 25? "When I was hungry, where were you? When I was thirsty, where were you? When I was in need, where were you?" That is faith in action. Those are the good works. To reach out to others, to step out of ourselves. Remember that beautiful story that Jesus told us about the Good Samaritan. There was the priest, there was the Levite who saw the man in need, beaten, wounded, and thrown by the wayside. Did they help? No. The Samaritan comes along and he gets off his donkey. He hears the cries of his people and he helps this man in need, puts him on his donkey and takes him to the inn. That is faith in action. Our faith needs good works. When I say I'm a person of faith, when I say I have faith in Jesus, when I say Jesus is my Lord, then I need to stoop down. Just like Jesus on Holy Thursday, he took towel in hand, basin in the other hand, and he stooped down and he served, he washed the feet of his disciples. And he tells us, I have left you an example. Jesus has left us a beautiful example of his service to all of us. That's good work, or good works in action. Jesus said of us, you are the light of the world. No one lights a lamp and puts it under the bushel, but puts it on the lampstand, so that everyone who sees your good works will give praise and glory to your Father in heaven. As we come to the final point in our meditation, I would like to say that faith needs proclamation. What do I mean by that? My faith, that I live in Jesus, that I'm building up, that I'm nourishing, that I'm strengthening every day, through which I'm doing my good works. My faith needs to be proclaimed. And how do I do this? I need to share with people around me what Jesus is doing for me in my life. And as St. Francis of Assisi said, use a word when necessary. And in the secular world that we are living in, we do need a word, because people want an explanation of why we believe in Jesus. And they also want to know, more especially, what Jesus is doing for me in my life. But you know, we Catholics are very pious. We don't like to step on anybody's toes. We'd like to respect everybody. That's a good sign, but that's not enough. We do need to be people who are expressive of our faith. And we don't have to preach the gospel to them. All that we have to do is to share from the depth of our heart what the Lord is doing for me. Sometimes parents have their children who are grown up and they have not come to church. They don't want to know anything about God. They don't want to know anything about Christ. They don't want to come to church. And then parents keep on pressing them. And then the children are put off further. So change that. How do we change that? By telling and sharing with your children what Jesus has done in your life, is doing in your life, and what you really expect of Jesus in your life. We can share from our life. People love to hear stories. People love to hear what's happening in our personal lives. And the moment we talk about our personal lives, they pick up their ears. People love stories. I love a story. I love a personal sharing. This is what Jesus wants us to do, to tell stories of what he is doing in our life. It's like he told so many stories. Teach us. He was a great master, a great teacher. He used stories to tell people's absolute truth. And they loved it. And they listened to those stories. So also today, every human being likes to hear a story. Tell people what Jesus is doing in your life. When you can share it with fun and laughter, definitely people are listening. People are watching. They want to see, they want to hear, then they will believe. Just like Thomas. Unless I put my finger in the marks that the nails have made in his hands and in his side, I will not believe. Jesus came there 8 days later. He said, come on, Thomas, I'll take you up on that challenge. Where's your finger? Place your finger in the marks the nails have made. And what was Thomas's response? My Lord and my God. My dear friends, share from your life what Jesus has done for you. And remember, faith is a gift. Treasure that gift. Grow that gift. And you will be a fantastic instrument that Jesus will use to bring others to know him, love him, and serve him. Just like Thomas. Thomas finally ended his life in India. And how did he end it in India? He was martyred for Jesus. What's the meaning of the word martyr? Witness. He was an excellent witness to Jesus. And he became a witness even to the extent of shedding his blood. My question to you is, deepen your faith, nourish your faith, proclaim your faith.